Hello and welcome back to another episode of Exponential Potential. I'm Jennifer Evans, aka Zen Jen, and I'm joined today with my fabulous co-host Claire Oatway. Hey Claire.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So let's just let you know what we're talking about today. We've got a really powerful conversation lined up for you, and it's all about how purposeful living can be is one of the main keys to relieving and reducing stress and helping you bring that life of balance and harmony and joy.
That's so right, Jen. I think we've all felt that pressure, that weight of stress, haven't we? Kind of we get ground down day in, day out, the to-do list, the demands, we're always running on empty. But you know, we could reach for the pink, and I've definitely reached the pink a few times. But what actually, if we went a little bit deeper, and what if the trick to solving stress was not the pink wine, but actually purpose? Purpose.
So when you're talking about pink, you're talking about wine, you're talking about alcohol. I just wanted to clarify.
It can be
Yes,
a good temporary stress relief, but
yes,
it's hiding
absolutely.
somewhat.
Yes, yes. So yeah, absolutely. So the secret to stress relief is living with more purpose. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. The ways you can live in alignment with your purpose and how that directly impacts your mental well-being, your stress levels, anxiety. And myself and Claire are going to be sharing with you some of our personal experiences, as well as real life examples of people that we've seen and people that I've helped um, transform their stress into a more purposeful approach to life. And I know, Claire, what are you going to be talking about as well? What else are we going to be talking about?
So I think from our perspective, it's really important to be honest about those roadblocks that people face. I have joked about pink wine. There's so many times we just go for short fix answers because something else gets in the way. So let's really tackle those roadblocks that are holding us back from living purposefully. Let's look at those practical tips. We're both Virgos. We love a practical tip. We're very sharing in terms of the habits that you can bring in, day out as busy women, as busy professionals.
Mm.
What can you do to bring about more peace and resilience? The key to that is living in alignment.
Mm-hmm. And plus, we're going to be talking about how living with purpose not just helps you reduce and relieve stress, but it's a key element and component to more joy, to that resilient mindset, even when life challenges um, sort of come up, feel like they're getting in the way. So this episode isn't just about stress relief. It's about cultivating long-lasting mental well-being, joy, and fulfillment.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because this isn't just for you if you're overwhelmed, and if you are, come and have a big hug from us. But kind of we want it if you're curious about how to bring more intention into your life. We really want to inspire you. We really want to give you the tools that you can start living with purpose, reduce that stress. It comes on a day-to-day basis. So, how can we all be resilient? And before we start, though, this isn't a one and done at all. We have got so much within our library. So don't forget to subscribe if you like what you've heard, so you don't miss the episodes, and you can join our community of purpose-driven women. You're very much at home. So
And
Jen,
just before we
oh
dive in, sorry, something that
yeah,
I just want to add this because it's not something we do in our episodes, and I think it's important for the listeners to know who we are. So I'm just going to introduce myself and Claire because I think it's, as I say, it's important for you to know who we are and to know that we actually know what we're talking about most of the time. So I help empower high achieving women create sustainable, fulfilling success. And I specialize in helping women rapidly and permanently break free from anxiety and swiftly release overwhelm, bouncing back from burnout. I'm a certified expert coach and mentor, international best-selling author and Reiki master. And my fabulous co-host Claire, she provides high performance executive and business coaching, helping you to achieve what you didn't think was possible. So she's a change maker, recognized internationally as an inspirational and innovative leader and success coach. So that's, yeah. Do you want to add to that?
This is one of the reasons why I absolutely adore this topic around purposeful living, because it can all put in a lot of effort and make a lot of progress and keep moving. But if we're not going in the right direction, if we're burning out, if we are damaging relationships at home or at work through stress, we're failing.
Mm-hmm.
Failing to achieve what we are here to do. So, yeah. Thanks for that gorgeous intro. Should we dive in? Go
yes,
on,
yes. Let's do that.
So I'm gonna start probing first. So when you talk about purposeful living, what do you mean?
For me, I think purposeful living is what I found that really helped me in the way of looking at my purposeful living and living life on purpose is becoming more aware and conscious of what I'm doing or how I am being every day, and aligning my actions, decisions, and lifestyle with a much deeper value and life goals. So it's not about what you do necessarily. It's, for me, it's more about how you be. It's not about your roles and identities, your job, although your job can be part of your purpose. It's very much about how you are being, with a clear sense of direction and meaning in your life, and a way of being which brings you joy and fulfillment. And that becomes your ultimate kind of compass, if you like. And that's what guides you of how you spend your time and your energy. And it's, in short, it's about living with intention and clarity and aligning with your true self. And ultimately, your true self, we are, my personal belief, and this may or may not resonate with all of you, but my personal belief is we were born beings of love and light. And that's what we came here to do, to shine our love and light. We go into a bit more detail about discovering purpose and what purpose is in episode 103, Discovering Purpose and Fulfillment. So I highly recommend you listen to that. So that's what purposeful living is for me.
Yeah. And it's conscious living in the sense of being aware of what you're here to do.
Mm.
You know, so many people kind of get to the end of life like, what is that it? What was that? I know that kind of throughout my career, I've often got to the end of the year and it's like, where did that go? And sometimes it's because I've been busy having fun. Sometimes it just feels like a list of endless frustrations, and I've not been aligned to, you know, where I want to be, where I want to go, how I want to live, the legacy that I want to leave behind. So, yeah.
And I think I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about people that have got a very clear purpose, and the person that popped into mind was Greta Thunberg, because what she's doing is a massive, you know, it's a big purpose taking on, and not all purposes need to be some huge mission. But what I've noticed with a lot of us, we have a purpose, but we didn't, because we're not coming from a place of love and compassion and kindness for ourselves and others. And yes, Greta Thunberg is incredibly young, and when we're young, we don't have the tools and the experience and the capabilities. But most of the time, I think purposeful living should be joyful. But somebody like Greta Thunberg and somebody with a really big purpose, if they're not coming from that place of love and compassion, it becomes like an obligation, like a responsibility. And there's so much anger and fear there. It's kind of missing the point of her purposeful life. Because for me, purposeful living should be joyful, or not should be, it is. It has the capability, the possibility to be joyful. So I just wanted to touch on that element as well.
And yeah, when you live in the integrity of who you are, you could be anybody. And that's all great. You could be the billionaire creator of Spanx if you want to empower women, or you could be the mother to 3 really rounded, happy, well-adjusted children. Or you could be a florist creating joy and beauty. And so often we get caught up in the, well, I'm not that and I'm not that. And very often as women, she's not that. And sometimes we do that because we're not happy with where we are. So we just take each other down a little peg. But actually, when you can step into understanding who you are and living in that truth, it makes everything else just obsolete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we're not living a more purposeful, meaningful life, that's when our perspective is so different. We are so focused on what we think matters, and it really doesn't matter. So I'd like to throw this question to you, Claire. So how does living with purpose, living on purpose, directly impact our stress levels and overall mental well-being? Have you found that?
I think we've both touched on that point. And certainly from my perspective as a working mum who had a son in primary school about to go through transition, who was the CEO of a multi-million-pound business and wife, you just feel like you're failing at everything, rushing around so much, trying to make sure that this happens on time, this happens on time, this happens on time. And it's not until you stop and breathe that you realize that those expectations, they're other people's expectations, but you've internalized them to live to that standard and said, no, that's my truth. It's like, well, actually, it's not. And it can be hugely draining to be living other people's lives instead of your own. It just takes so much energy. Psychologically, it can be so draining because, as I say, you just feel you're not achieving anything. That's because you're not measuring yourself against the goals that you need to be measuring yourself against.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to that in terms of trying to get everything right all the time. Feeling responsible for everybody else's happiness. Certainly in my family, one of my identities is to be the peacekeeper. And sometimes I enjoy that role, and other times it's really stressful because it's what's expected. It's kind of, I've put that expectation on myself, but so have other people. It's like, oh, Jen will fix it, or Jen will lift us up, Jen will bring us together. And you can feel like you're being pulled in all sorts of different directions. But I think when you have a clear sense of purpose, you prioritize what really matters. You start to see and understand what really matters. And it's easier then when you see what matters, it's easier to let go of what doesn't. And of course, then that decreases the overwhelm and then the anxiety and stress.
I mean, from a psychological perspective, that then does reduce anxiety because you're caught in this hamster wheel, trying to achieve all the time. Or at times, you know, it becomes so wedded into who you are, you just feel so stuck. But Jen, you do a lot with women around kind of their bodies as well, and the impact that this has. You know, what does stress do, or kind of conversely, what can mental resilience do inside your body?
With stress, if we don't, there's lots of ways we can release stress, but a lot, you know, that could be through getting angry, it could be getting through emotional ups, you know, crying. I had a client that was constantly crying at the drop of a hat because she was so stressed. And I used to watch, I think we've said this before, I'd watch the Andrex puppy and I'd be in tears. For those that don't know what the Andrex puppy is, it's this really cute golden Labrador puppy that would wrap itself in toilet paper and run around the whole house. And it was so cute and adorable. I'd just be crying, you know, full on tears. So they're sorts of releases for stress. But when we don't release stress, when we don't communicate and express how we feel, and it's better to do that when we're feeling calmer than when we're really angry. When we don't do that and we bury it, it causes illness and disease in the body. You know, it causes neck pain, migraines, stomach ache, leg pain, back pain, digestive issues. Menopause, it will increase your menopausal symptoms because your stress levels and cortisol levels are so high. When you go through that change, as you're going through the change in perimenopause and menopause, it exasperates, it exaggerates all your symptoms. So when we're not looking after ourselves and taking care of our, you know, reducing those stress levels, it has a massive impact on our bodies, and of course on our energy levels and on those around us. And as I'm talking about this, myself and Claire were having a conversation before we started this, and it's easy to lose touch of that joy through your day. And I notice when I do that, when I forget to focus on what my purpose is and make that a priority, I get pulled into that. We all do. We get pulled into that day to day, and we become stressed and heavy and drained. Solutions don't come to us with ease. Synchronicities, you know, the blocks and things happen in terms of blocking our joyful, that joyful time, but it also blocks our potential, our success levels. So stress is, and it, you know, stress can then lead to some really serious illness. So that's all joyful and happy.
But it can. So let's bring this around. You know, can you share examples of how living on purpose, you know, it does help to reduce stress? You know, and from your own experience, or with people that you've worked with, people you know.
Yeah. So from my personal experience, I used to think that having a highly successful career was my purpose. So everything I did was focused on my career and being successful and achieving that goal, and then the next goal and the next goal and the next goal. And part of that, what, you know, I thought that was my purpose. I thought that was the key to being happy. Constantly trying to prove myself that I was as good as my brothers, or I was good as a man, and going up the corporate ladder. But it felt so short of feeling fulfilled. You know, it just left me feeling empty, and it was an incredibly stressful way of living. At the time, for a short period of time, it was great because it was a real work hard, play hard culture. But at the end of the day, there was no meaning to it. It didn't fulfill me. It didn't bring me joy. It was short term. Yes, I did that. And yes, I reached that goal. And yes, I did this. And that's great. But it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't deep enough. Yeah, because it's very easy for your career to become the most important thing in your life. And that's what happened to me. And it wasn't until I sort of took a step back and thought, am I actually happy? Am I enjoying this? And the answer was no. So it's then you ask the questions of, okay, so what will bring me joy? What will bring me happiness? What is life all about?
Yeah.
Is it about work, 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 or is it actually about enjoying and living life? So what was interesting is people started to come into my life, personal growth, spiritual growth. So those sorts of people, experts came into my life, and I learned a huge amount, and I gained perspective that there's a lot more to life than work. And I realized, yes, life was about enjoying it. It was about being more compassionate and kinder to myself. It was about coming from a place of love, letting go of fear, and discovering much more deeper, meaningful connections with others, with nature, with universal energies. And I stopped when I realized there was so much more to life than pushing myself up the corporate ladder and proving myself. I stopped worrying about trying to fit in. I stopped caring about what others thought, other people's judgments. I stopped trying to prove myself, and I left my corporate job, and I created space in terms of what is it I really want to do. And I listened, and what am I drawn to? And I've always been drawn to healing, helping and healing others. So when I let go of what I presumed was my parents' expectations, societal expectations, let go of the shoulds, and I focused on how do I live life with more purpose, I became much more aware and conscious of how I was being. And in that, I discovered such a beautiful, deep sense of inner peace and harmony, balance, self-worth, and self-love.
Yeah.
And I think when we're not being purposeful in life, we lose who we are, we lose what's important and what matters. And I've had the privilege of working with some amazing women, like Vicky, for example. She was running a really successful business, property business, but she was so burnt out and experiencing overwhelming anxiety, that was just incapacitating her to the point where she couldn't get out of bed in the mornings. So that was quite a low point for her, but it was also a time for her to learn and grow from that. So I helped her see another way of living, a different way of living, where she had, a life with more meaning. And I helped her uncover and discover what was meaningful to her, because what's meaningful to all of us is different. So we tapped into that, what had meaning for her, what had purpose for her, what really mattered, and how she wanted to make a difference in the world. And once we had the answers for that, I helped her shift her perspective on how she was being in day to day. Shifting her mindset, releasing those negative behavioral patterns, and aligning with who she truly is, which gave her this renewed sense of energy and balance and calm. She felt inspired again. She had an important why. And she completely broke free of anxiety and dramatically reduced her stress levels.
And
So,
it's and as you're retelling that story, I'm imagining the people that she's impacted and
mm,
the impact that had on relationships around her,
mhm,
kind of where it goes next.
mm.
Um, so what do you think are the common obstacles then that people face? Were there anything that you had to focus in on for her to help her to overcome in order to move into that more balanced, less stressful life?
Yeah, I think I mean, fear is always the number one obstacle. And and I know you've experienced that as well in my life and my clients. It's always the fear of change. It's the fear of doing something different and stepping out of of your comfort zone. And it's also, what will other people think of me? The fear of judgment from others. Like, this is how people have seen me. This is how I've lived my life up until now. What's on the other side of that? How will that affect my relationships? And there's all these fears that come in and come up. But what I found, actually, when you step into that fear and you make your purpose more important than your fear, and you're aligning with your purpose, because your purpose has to come from you. It has to fit your soul, your heart. You have to feel like it's something that you really want to do, not what you feel obligated to do. And once you connect with that, what I found was that a lot of clients felt that, well, if I change, how's that going to affect my relationship with my partner? Will they leave me? Will that create discord? But what I found, for most relationships, it's actually brought them closer together. So you see the relationships start to connect better. The communication is better because their energy is shifted. Their mindset, they're more focused on positive rather than negative.
Yeah.
So there's a
Well, and
massive, so
also,
it's, yes, sorry, I sort of digressed about, we were talking about fear, but when you shift that fear, it changes things for the better. And it's not overnight. It's small steps. It's reflecting on how you want to be. It's reflecting on what's important to you, making that more important than your fear.
and that, I mean, that fear of change is very real, and especially around relationships, and the fear that you won't be loved by your partner, the fear that, if you're not fitting that particular role, what are you worth? What are you here to do? And from my own experience, when you don't voice that, doesn't mean it's unsaid within you. It just leads to this kind of corrosive frustration, that you can't quite put your finger on it. And it's just so important to understand that fear and to loosen the grip, for sure.
Yeah. And the other, I think, with fear is such a big one, but the other question to ask is, what are the consequences of me not following something that has more meaning for me? There's so many of us are drawn to do something, but we don't, because we're stuck in that fear. But by asking yourself, what are the consequences if I stay where I am? How's that going to affect my well-being, my mental health? How's that going to affect others around me? If I don't take that step into feeling fulfilled and joyful. And a lot of people, and that's why clients come to see me, is because they need help moving through that fear.
Mm. But do you think sometimes, though, for many people, it's also wrapped up in not really knowing what your purpose is, that lack of clarity? Because it is one of those deep questions, for sure, and it can change over time as well. What you thought you would be at 11 is different than 21, is different than 41. But Hannah, how do you overcome that lack of clarity? What's your experience been?
And I think, again, that is sort of obstacle that is up there. I would say that's number 2 with people not knowing. So people come to me, well, what's my purpose? What will bring me more meaning? And yes, you're absolutely right, they really struggle to identify what that is. And I think one of the things is, I help them, and we talk about this again in episode 103, discovering purpose and fulfillment. I think it's creating that space to go within, putting a no disturb sign on the door, and giving yourself permission to take time and sit with your questions. And you can ask, so why am I here? What will bring me joy? What is my purpose? And you can journal and meditate, and you're asking that questions and see what comes down, and write things that you enjoy doing. Write things that you used to love doing as a child, or elements of your job that you really enjoy doing, or elements in life that you really enjoy doing, because your purpose isn't necessarily your job. Your job can be something completely different. People get wrapped up a lot in thinking, well, this is my purpose, so therefore it has to be my job. And that's not the case at all. So you sit with it, give yourself time and space, allow yourself to breathe and get present, and then ask those questions and journal what comes up. What is it you like to do? What is it what is it that other people say you're good at? What fills you with excitement? What has you leaning in? Notice your body's language when you're doing that sort of journaling and asking those questions.
And also kind of look back over your life. You will find that it keeps popping up and doesn't quite go away. It's like the clues are there all the time, for sure. And, you know, to build on that aspect of journaling, you know, I think for many people, they get caught up in the external pressures. You know, we've talked a lot about family or relationship expectations. But financial concerns or society's views about, you know, what you should do, should, and that leads to a lot of stress. But actually, one of the things that I found most helpful is to start to journal what I mean by abundance, what I mean by success, what I mean by confidence, and, you know, to be able to externalize my thoughts and beliefs on paper through journaling, I can start to reframe what success is. It doesn't have to be a 100K job. It doesn't have to be the boss of so many people. It can be something that's quite different. And that's a hugely empowering exercise when you start to realize, you know, what you really mean by these terms. Kind of living life on your own terms, really, as opposed to, well, this is what the guidebook says. And one of the things that I've learned from working with people all around the world is that the guidebook that is held here is not the same guidebook that everybody else has got. It's just not, whether it's a different country, whether it's a different family, whether it's people in a different profession. And when you realize that you can create your own set of rules, your own set of terms, and from that you can then create boundaries, you can find community. It's so, yeah, that's definitely been one of my big aspects.
And I would say that you know, with the people that you work with, Claire, that, you know, most of them are leaders, maybe in a leadership role within a company, maybe a leadership role within their own business, or maybe they're a leader in a different way, because not all leaders, again, that's not necessarily a title, it's how you be. You know, some people are natural leaders, some people grow to be leaders. So I would imagine that that's part of something, you know, setting those, helping people discover what they're capable of as well, and helping them set the boundaries, so that they are focused on what truly matters and what's important for the bigger picture.
For sure.
So do you have any, let's get into the sort of nitty gritty and practical daily habits and tools. Do you have anything that you want to share with the listeners that can help them begin to live more purposefully and experience the stress relief benefits that come with that?
So one of my favorites, and, you know, you'll need to look over a previous episode to go more depth, is around these micro hacks, these micro mindful moments throughout the day. They can be sensory hacks, and, you know, I've done the fingertip on fingertip, just gently feeling every single ridge in your fingertip just for 10 seconds, or paying attention to sound that's around you. And it sounds like it's a simple, overly simplistic approach, but when you build it in throughout the day, you start to disrupt those automatic thinking patterns. You start to be less driven by that little voice that's in your head, because you're able to keep centering yourself and grounding yourself. So those small shifts are incredibly powerful in this area, both in terms of the stress relief, if you need to remove yourself from a situation, but you can't because you're on the underground on the way somewhere, or you're stuck in traffic or you're in
In a
conflict or you're
meeting.
bored. It's just like, just retreat back into yourself, feel your senses for a very short time, and then come back in. Notice something different. It's, yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that episode you're talking about is biohacking. I'm not sure if it was around confidence, but it was
Biohacking confidence, yes.
yes,
Yeah,
biohacking confidence. There we go. I do remember things occasionally. Yeah, I think mindfulness, finding mindfulness practices that suit you. Because when people, I think people can hear mindfulness and they think go immediately to meditation.
Yeah.
And that is part of it for sure. But just breath work, a few, like you say, just sitting and breathing for a couple of minutes, looking outside and noticing the color of the sky or the trees or the birds, those little resets. And I think for me, the client, what I teach my clients, what I show my clients is some really powerful mindfulness practices, how they start their day, how they end their day, and how they reset throughout their day. So it's kind of in the beginning of the day, it's setting an intention of how you want to be in that day. Who do you want to be? Do I want to be more gentle today? Do I want to be more aware of the language that I'm using? Is it a positive language? Is it negative? Do I want to be more understanding with others? So I think how you be in the day, your sense of being, is a really good way to start your day in terms of setting that intention of how you want to live that day. And then also maybe you reflect on what you want to achieve, but keeping that really towards, and that's aligning with your purpose, not just what you want to achieve on your to-do list, but what you want to accomplish in that day that is aligned and moving you forward towards your purpose. What I love about these episodes, Claire, just as I'm talking, what I love about these episodes, listeners, this isn't just for you. When we're talking like this, myself and Claire get so much from it. I get a lot from Claire, but as I'm talking, I'm also giving myself huge reminders because we're not perfect. And we have times where we're completely off alignment and out of whack. So as we're talking, we're also teaching and reminding ourselves as well. So,
Yeah.
it's for all of us to sort of grow and elevate together.
Well, I mean, and for sure. I was going to share my morning practice, or part of my morning practice, and that is around gratitude, and gratitude journaling is so important because it you see all the driftwood, you see all of the positive aspects that are there that you often miss because you're dashing around. So it can be, I know journaling in particular, you're a big fan of gratitude journaling, that it can provide that anchoring. For me, it's a gratitude in terms of identifying what I'm grateful for in that moment. And every single morning, I have a glass of water and I go out of my back door, as long as it's not raining, and I offer some water back to the earth. And I look to the sky and I was like, universe, thank you for this. That was awesome. I loved that yesterday. Thank you. And this kind of just circle of giving back whilst holding the gratitude has just been a beautiful ceremony. Now Steph's going to see this and he'll realise why I disappear outside and roll his eyes, I'm sure. But it's just a really great way to connect and recenter and show your gratitude. If you're not one to write, just say it to the sky.
I love that. And I think giving back, again, that's a purposeful thing to do. It has meaning and it brings you joy and it fills your heart. That's, and gratitude is incredibly grounding. Yes, so I think there's other things that we can go into, but I think that's, gratitude, mindfulness, how you want to be through the day, really key.
Yeah. Whichever life path you're on, kind of whether you're a millionaire or whether you're struggling with finances, what we've described here are, they're free tools. Whether you are super, super busy because you're over committed, confessional time there, you can still find 10 seconds. It is possible to find 10 seconds. And sometimes the 10 seconds, what I do is if I see a bee or the wind is catching the trees in a particular way, I stand and take a video for 10 seconds of that, because I am there, stood still, watching it and kind of being reminded, you can take a 10-second break. Come on.
And I think, we've talked about time, and we've talked about, if you want to live with less stress, relieve that stress, reduce that stress, you have to take time. You have to. There's no, it's, if you want to continue living the way you're living, that's great. But if you want to live with less stress, reduce your stress, increase your joy, you have to make the time. And that's actually it's easier than you think. And it's something that I help my clients with is, where are you wasting your time? Where is your time getting sucked away from you? Those time leaks that we all have. So it is actually a lot easier than you think to create more time in your day, and to prioritize and to choose what's more important to you, so that you can focus on something that's more purposeful, that has more meaning, more fulfillment, which will bring you more fulfillment and more joy. And who doesn't want that?
Well, because if you don't, the universe will take the time back. It will give you a cold. It will have you laid in bed for a week. It will have you burning out. It'll find a way. So why not make it a little bit easier?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so anything else you want to add, Claire?
Well, I think we've covered a lot around the stress aspects, but perhaps just around the link between purpose and joy. We talk so much about joy throughout the podcast, and it's I think the scarf sparks joy in its own right. I've got to say that. But how do the two connect for you?
When you have more meaning in life, and you are following something that you are aligned with, the whole word alignment just feels yummy and delicious to me. You're doing something when you're living on purpose and going towards something that's more purposeful in life. It is connected to your heart and your soul. It's connected to bringing you joy. It's deliberately there to bring you joy, so you actually follow that purpose. So from a soul level point of view, you already knew before you got here what your purpose was. So if you're connected to that purpose, it's going to bring you joy, because that's the agreement that you made before you came. And that's when you are truly who you are and who you came here to be, it takes you beyond joy. It takes you into bliss. So yeah, I think living life on purpose is innately within you. And when you are connected to your true self, that's where your true joy is.
I think it boosts so much resilience as well, because what I'm thinking about is when you connect to that purpose, like the challenges, you can almost dance with them. You can almost do a tango with the stress, like, oh, we're having this dance today. Oh, this is really good fun. And you have that amusement. It doesn't feel like the challenges are insurmountable. And that mindset helps you to unlock solutions far quicker. Yes. It helps you to inspire others not to get caught in the wallows, because it's like, you know what, we're going to dance. We should definitely create a whole series of Instagram things of tango with ...
Tango
with torment.
Yeah, because life is always full of challenges. It will always throw you stuff. But I think when you have that purpose, the purpose is more important, and you learn to see that challenge as an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to learn. And when you look at it from that point of view, it's no longer difficult. It, like you say, well, you dance with it. You can, and dance is such a beautiful thing, movement and things. And again, another reminder for me, dancing with challenges, dancing with problems to create those solutions.
I don't want to miss what you've touched on there either, which is around the learning, because to live on purpose is to strengthen and grow in that purpose, to keep moving it forward for the whole world. We are an evolving species, so that means you have to stretch. That means you have to kind of push out the elbows a little bit more. It means you have to have the difficulties to learn how to overcome the difficulties in order to share for others. You know, it's natural.
Mm-hmm. And that exuberance that you have, that energy that you have, that purpose brings you, that joy will impact and affect everybody around you without you even having to say anything. Just doing what you do and being how you be in that purpose mindset, that purposeful living, coming from that place of love and joy, will automatically have such a wonderful, beautiful impact on everybody around you. And the ripple effect just keeps rippling out.
Well, I definitely feel less stressed at the end of this episode than before it. So
Yeah, I am
my list
very
of notes is big.
uplifted.
And we hope you guys are as well. I mean, we promised that, you know, we would give you tips and tricks and insights, and I think we've delivered pretty well there.
Mm-hmm. I concur.
And you know, and actually, you know, part of that reason is that we're meant to be doing this on purpose. So we have been living our truth. We are getting a lot of joy from bouncing off each other and reminding each other, reminding you guys. So please, if you want to learn more, and if you just want to help us to live our purpose, subscribe. It helps us to be here. Like and add your comments. They do make such a difference.
They do indeed. And if you want to find out a little bit more and how you can work with myself or Claire, we will put the links in at the bottom of the description, because we would love to be able to assist you in your journey of creating the life that you want to create.
Indeed. Well, for now, Jen, it's been a delight, and I'll see you again really soon.
Bye.